Oh, hold on. Come on. There we go. There it is. There he is. Uh, this is the same venue that we saw Teresa Caputo in a few years ago. The auditorium is nice, except for having to walk through that smoky casino. I'll just have to grin and bear it. Let's see, this is slide 2. Let's go to slide 3. There we are. There's that good group. And I'm not as familiar with Tyler Henry as I am with John Edwards, having seen him a couple times, and Teresa Caputo, having seen her a couple times. So I felt like I wanted to study up on him. So I ordered his book, Between Two Worlds, Lessons from the Other Side. That's that book there. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been reading a bit every morning, and I just finished it. It's a very personal book. It's almost like a memoir written by Tyler in 2016 and covering his childhood through his rise to fame as an in-demand medium on Hollywood set. It is filled with lots of examples of readings, the process of communicating with those who have passed on, and the shaping of his personal beliefs concerning the afterlife. The following are notes and a synopsis, my synopsis from the book. Tyler was born in 1996 and grew up in Hanford, California. I didn't know where that was either, so they told me. A little town, rural town near Fresno, up out in the valley. His family was a typical conservative, loving, supportive, small town family. Tyler was their only child. They deserve kudos for being understanding and supportive of their son and his gifts throughout his life. Tyler had his first experience with knowingness, as he calls it, at age 10. I thought this might have been around that age, this picture. When he announced to his family, Mom, this is right when he got up, we are going to have to say goodbye to Grandma. We have to go now. She's going to die tonight. He described a feeling of total certainty, like a memory, but it hadn't happened yet. He was confused as he didn't even know at this point what precognition or intuition was. He was only 10 years old. He describes the feeling as a knowingness that did not waver, so very, very certain, coupled with an urgent need to communicate it. As the family prepared for the trip, they got a call that grandmother had just died. That evening, his grandmother came to him. He was jolted awake in his bed with a feeling of total alertness. Standing at the foot of his bed was a considerably younger version of his newly deceased elderly grandmother, surrounded by golden light. A voice interrupted him, saying, "There won't be much, but the necklace in the brown box is yours. It's just stuff. I will see you again." The meaning of her words became evident a few days after the funeral. The family visited the grandmother's home, only, and this is awful, only to discover that it had been stripped of almost everything of value. Evidently, eventually they found out that a distant relative and his wife had plundered the home right after she died, but they missed one thing. Underneath the bed, they found a brown wood jewelry box containing a single piece of jewelry, a gold pendant and chain. That's what his grandmother told him about. Much of the book is a story of Tyler's rise to being a celebrity. He begins reading in Hanford at a newly opened metaphysical shop in his teenage years. He describes the development of his gift as being very distracting, as I can well imagine. To try to live an everyday life. This is Leave It to Beaverville there. It's just, plain vanilla. At first, he was used to being on the receiving end of skepticism, but as his information proved to be accurately repeated, he found himself trusting his visions and instincts more than the words people told him. I'm going to skip through most of the part about growing up, except for his friend Nolan from his teenage years. This was before Tyler had truly made his clairvoyant abilities known in Hanford. Nolan was a small, shy boy. Actually, Tyler was pretty shy too. Tyler met in his PE class. They bonded over their mutual passion for video games. Eventually, Tyler revealed his abilities to Nolan, who was excited to research what they might mean with Tyler. This was incredibly helpful to Tyler, who finally discovered a name to put to what he was experiencing. He became more interested in religion and spirituality, struggling with how he might fit in. He discovered what it means to get feedback from others, which he calls validation, and other mediums do the same. And that this was a way for him to minimize the period in which he held on to impressions from spirits. This was pivotal, as it allowed him to go from being open to any energy around people he's with and spirits to being able to control the duration of the experience. Upon sharing it, the vision or sensation would usually go away until another message took its place. Nolan and he did many experiments with Tyler's developing abilities, so very helpful to him in his early development. On to Hollywood, which is exactly where he ended up. As many of you know, Tyler was eventually discovered by people with connections to Hollywood in Hanford. In November 2015, Henry appeared on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where he gave a reading to Khloe Kardashian. In January 2016, Hollywood Meeting with Tyler Henry premiered on E! In March 2016, it was announced that E! had ordered a second season of the show. Tyler published the memoir entitled, between the book I just mentioned, Between Two Worlds, Lessons from the Other Side, the same year. In 2022, he published a second book, Here and Hereafter, How Wisdom from the Departed Can Transform Your Lives Now. A 2018 People article detailed Henry's claims about his abilities, the development of his powers, and his reading with LaToya Jackson, interesting reading, set to air in the new season of Hollywood Medium, in which he claimed to contact Michael Jackson. Hollywood Medium ended after 4 seasons in 2019, and his next series, Life After Death with Tyler Henry, premiered on March 2022 on Netflix. Active little boy. Henry has given readings to many celebrities, including Nancy Grace, Alan Thicke, retired NBA player John Sally, and actors Monica Potter, Soleil Moon Frye, Amber Rose, Jaleel White, the Kardashians, Corey Feldman, Carmen Electra, my favorite, Matt Lauer, Chad Michael Murray, Rick Fox, Megan Fox, Chrissy Metz, Kristen Calavari, Bobby Brown, Rosalind Sanchez, the Try Guys, and Tom Arnold, to name a few. Now that's quite a resume. But what I found most interesting about the book was Tyler's description of the process of doing readings and his personal religious beliefs. The process involved asking himself 3 questions. I've abbreviated them here. The first being, how much am I resonating with the individual on the other side? If the connection is not clear, he sets up his intention to ask for more details. Item 2, question 2. Considering how capably the spirit communicates, how much is he choosing to share, he or she choosing to share on this topic? The question. It's important to notice the pauses and when spirit wishes to move on to the next subject. 3, how does the spirit prefer to communicate? Tyler brings all of his attention to the nature of the communication, which tells him a lot about the type of person the spirit was on Earth. Does the spirit use vivid language, clairvoyance? Some communicate through noises or song lyrics, clairaudience. A spirit's form of communication may indicate their life's occupation. Underlying nuances are important. They give a glimpse into the personalities of those coming through. Let me give you a couple of the things that come through, because spirits don't generally use language. They use impressions. They use smells. Here's some of the things that and what they might mean for him. I'm not going to read the whole list, but a bottle, red nose, alcoholism, cages, feelings of entrapment, stagnation, being stuck, circles, cycles of behavior. So these are the impressions and figures. And John Edwards has described the same set of things. You learn these like a language, what they mean, and you get better as time goes on. Interesting point. Early on, Tyler wondered why the spirits come through at all. They're at peace. Why do they so insistently come through? I remember John Edwards saying that it is a difficult process for them to go from being on such a high vibrational rate, their spirit in the hereafter, to communicate with loved ones on earth. We're way down here. We're on a much lower vibrational rate. What he eventually realized was, and this is important, the perspective death provides, that it gives those on the other side a whole new understanding of their lives when they lived here. Considering that they're still bonded to the loved ones, they often feel it's important to share these after-death epiphanies with the living. They can heal conflict, aid in healing, and share what dying taught them about living. Over time, we realize that souls on the other side benefit from delivering messages to their loved ones as well, and sharing new perspectives and understanding about the elements and dynamics that played out during their lifetimes, which they may or not have realized at the time. Immense healing happens for them as they continue along their spiritual paths, which is a way of saying we continue to evolve and develop even after death. I thought another astute observation he had was that almost all souls are more enlightened versions of their living selves. We continue to grow even after death. I was relieved that he sees animals come through all the time. He loves dogs. Since spirits normally communicate through impressions and images rather than speech, Tyler observes that as I have more experience with spirits drawing from this mental dictionary of symbols, my vocabulary grows. I can only assume that over time, this process will continue to refine the details of the messages I receive. I remember John Edwards described at the very beginning, he kept getting, when he'd ask questions, an image of a ring with certain people, often though. And he at first didn't know what that meant at all, but he came to realize it meant commitment. Tyler says that his best insights come from his spirit guides through streams of impressions. What are Tyler's religious beliefs? I wanted to know. Tyler grew up in a Protestant household, attending youth group and church services as a child and teenager. He was always interested in religion and even entertained becoming a minister as a career path. Looks like we scared Miriam off when she heard that. He is careful not to use religious references and terms in his readings and descriptions of the process. He avoids words like heaven or angels, preferring the other side and guides. He states that he believes in a spiritual God, not a strictly religious one. He astutely observes that it seemed that for a lot of people I knew, their interpretation of the faith was entirely dependent on what a preacher told them. That always seemed limited to me. While he personally felt very comforted and uplifted in church, he quickly realized that just as a church could inspire, uplift, and inform, it could also alienate and destroy a young, impressionable person's sense of self-esteem. Using fear to instill good behavior and the Christian idea of hell perplexed him, as it did me. He observed that by age 13, I'd already read and interpreted at least 100 messages from the other side. I had yet to meet anyone who came through and communicated that they were burning in hell. It just didn't match up with what I was hearing every Sunday. In the evolution of his beliefs, he went inward and discovered that spirituality comes from within. I think I'm on to the next slide here. Hold on. It requires no maintenance beyond that which flows naturally from living life. I have only to trust in a few fundamental truths. These are his words, which have always resonated with me more than any doctrine written or preached by man. He made a shift from believing in a religious God to a spiritual God. He now views God as a force that we are all not just the result of, we are also a part. He merges his experience in church with his personal revelations in this description. And this will be the end of this prequel. What gave me that unexplainable feeling of fulfillment as we worshiped together in church was not the rightness of the words we are singing together or the doctrine we were supporting. It was the feeling of connection between the people in a congregation we were supporting. It was a feeling of connection between the people in a congregation as they expressed collective gratitude to the Creator. This feeling of fulfillment doesn't require religion at all. It is available to any group of souls communing through interconnected passion and selfless dedication to a force greater than themselves. My spiritual sense tells me that this is where God lives. No matter how it is manifested, I know that this source connection runs through us all infinitely. So it is.